The WNBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, make sure you tap into Underdog Fantasy and their fantasy pick 'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, and starting next week, WNBA. Sign up today at underdogfantasy.com using promo code NBA SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Royal Retros. Royal Retros has jerseys, hats, t-shirts, jackets, sweatshirts from all the old school sports teams that you love. Use promo code SGPN for a 10% off your order today. That's SGPN, promo code SGPN at royalretros.com to take 10% off today. Yes, sir. We're back with another edition of the WNBA Gambling Podcast on Sports Gambling Podcast Network. No me, no the voice, no guy. It's me, really real, villain real. It's Terrell Furman Jr. here at your service. Oh, we are back. We are so freaking back, man. I'm trying to tell you, we are so freaking back. It is WNBA season. The league year opening tip kicks off in T-minus a week from today. Oh, this time next week, we will be watching games. And I can't wait because this is a great time of year. The league is the biggest it's ever been. We got a whole bunch of new players coming in that are going to bring a lot of excitement. People are excited, and it's time to convert some of those casual fans into some hardcore DJs with the WNBA Gambling Podcast. You know, it's another season. I still got my guy with me. Season 3, Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on?
Scotty, beam me up.
Surprise.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I know we got the NBA podcast going on, but it's always nice to cover the WNBA. So looking forward to coming with you, of course, for a new season. Should be fun. Definitely looking forward to, of course, Caitlin Clark's for rookie season, not to mention all the other storylines that are worth following. We're going to get into the win totals in a second, but there are a couple of really good teams and a couple of really, really bad teams, and we'll see what happens. So should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I mean, betting has now gone up. Scott, right now, if we wanted to get down on, some heavy hardcore DJ action, we could get down on Storm minus 4.5 right now for the preseason. When have we
I
ever
did see
talked about
preseason lines. I was pretty excited about it.
when have we ever talked about preseason lines? And it's like it just gets me excited because it tells me that they're going to take this to another level with betting again. Hopefully, we get more players. I think that's the thing we're looking for. More players, more opportunity. There was a few missed opportunities because we didn't have lines. As of right now, there's only one player in the entire WNBA that has player props out right now.
It's Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
So
just one. That's it. If we wanted to get down early on some action, we couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It's only Caitlin Clark. But I expect next week we're going to be loaded up. It's going to be more. Hopefully, they're out earlier. That would be great.
Yeah, I just want overnight lines. That's really all
overnight lines. That's it. Like if we could consistently, we got them a few times, but there was also some nights where it was like, yo, it's like 1:00 in the morning on the East Coast, and we still don't have lines out. Like, so hopefully, I think that this is going to be an opportunity where we're going to get a lot of overnight lines, a lot of overnight opportunity, and we'll be able to see like the league is biggest it's ever been now. The biggest it's ever been now, and we haven't even gotten to expansion. Expansion is coming next year, Scott. We're getting a whole new team next year. We're going to have an extra draft. They're going to, oh man, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Oh, I'm so excited. But before we talk about the win totals and everything going on this season, all the changes, we're going to get everybody up to date. Landon McAllister's in the chat. First time actually going to follow the WNBA this year. Let's get this money together. Hey, Landon, Scott, I'm not trying to brag, but we were really, really good with underdog lineups in the WNBA. I think consistently over the whole season, we were up. This year I'm going to track the units. I didn't track them last year. I think I'm going to track them this year. But we were up pretty much with our underdog. It seemed like every other night or consecutive nights we were hitting underdog lineups. So it's a lot of opportunity. Shout out to Squirrels in the chat as well. Live from the curve, always from the curve. Here we go. Before we get into some WNBA action, I got to talk to you about hardcore baseball fans, because if that's who you are, if you're a DJ that's just hanging around in the office looking for some afternoon action early in the games, WNBA hasn't started yet. So, you know, the few times that we get early games in W that's not there yet, lock into some baseball and lock into the MLB Gambling Podcast, who has their episodes in the daytime, and you can go watch them whenever. Actually, you don't have to wait for that. You can catch evening baseball, afternoon baseball, sometimes even some morning baseball, depends on what side of the coast you're on. So tap into the MLB Gambling Podcast wherever you get your podcasts to lock in on this MLB season. All right, Scott, I'm not wasting no time. We got 12 teams, 12 win totals to get through, and we're going to get through them. Here we are. First team up is the Washington Mystics at 11.5 on the win total. Minus
for the record, by the way, I
over.
did see a 12.5. So shop around on all these win totals. You might find different ones.
Yeah, definitely make sure you shop around. Minus 125 on the over 11.5 wins here. Minus 102 on the under. Make playoffs. The Mystics are plus 280 to make the playoffs. Minus 390 to miss the playoffs. There's a lot of big changes going around the W this season. And with the Mystics, I think that the number one is that EDD is not going to be playing this season with them. She's taking a year off. I would think that she's going to retire, and this is just her prepping to retire, but she's not playing this season with them. They're going to be relying a lot on Brittany Sykes. They're going to be relying a lot on Ariel Atkins, on Shakira Austin. You have Natasha Cloud, who is no longer with the team. She's over in Phoenix. So that's another piece that they're missing. Like, it's going to be a whole new look Mystics team this year for Washington. And I mean, if we go back in time to last season, the really, really big thing that really turned the season on a downhill for the Mystics was one, EDD getting hurt and missing the year. I think Ariel Atkins was out for a while. Natasha Cloud was out in and out of the lineup a little bit. Shakira Austin was out for a while. Maisha Hines-Allen was out for a little while. Like, they had a lot of injuries, and the defense just went to shit. And it wasn't what we prototypically know of a Washington Mystics defense. Now they're missing their best defender, especially their best perimeter defender, in Natasha Cloud, who is no longer with the team. Shakira Austin is back. That's going to fill up the painted area, but EDD, also another solid defender. They're going to be missing them. 11.5 here. This is the lowest win total, Scott. Are we going over?
I mean, I feel like the Mystics, the biggest issue for them last year, besides the injuries, they just could not win on the road. They were just an abysmal road team. They were good at home. They just couldn't win games in other arenas. Somebody's going to have to be terrible in this league. It is a low number, but do I think does a part of me believe that the Mystics might blow it up? Like, is there a chance that if this does not go well early, do they tank and try to get Paige? Or like at least try to get themselves in the running for Paige? I know that they kind of divide the lottery up into some different, ways, but is that a possibility? It might be. They might be out of this thing early. I think I'm going to lean under on the Mystics. I understand that they have some veteran leadership there, and they do have some talent. They lost a lot of pieces. Some teams are going to have to be really bad, and I think the Mystics maybe can sneak up on you at home, but they were so bad on the road last year. They were awful. I think I'm going to lean under. It's not going to be easy. It might come down to the wire. They're also assuming that Atkins and everyone can actually stay healthy, which is a big if. I'm going to lean under. I see this team winning like 10 games.
So let me see. I'm trying to pull up those home road splits last year, but they were glaringly bad for the Washington Mystics. And I think that's another concern of mine. And you hit it on the nose with that last point. If there's an injury to anybody, I mean, now they bring in Stephanie Dolson from our New York Liberty. We know how she gets down, shooting on the outside, a nice big down low. They bring in Carly Samuelson, not Katie Lou, but Carly Samuelson over to the team as well. And they just shipped off Queen Egbo. So now they just lost another defensive piece in a big and Queen Egbo coming off the bench for them. And they sent her over to Connecticut.
Yeah.
They sent her to Connecticut. So I hate to go under on my Mystics, man.
It
I really
really just
do.
feels like they're in a transition year, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like
it
they're
really
just
does.
tearing it all down and they're going to try to build it back up. That's kind of what it feels like to me. They don't have any other moves. I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
But it's like, and I think I really, because I actually do think this team has potential. Like Brittany Sykes, Ariel Atkins, with more opportunity, they should be really good. I think Shakira Austin is a really, really good big, but it's just the fact of everybody got better. Like it feels like majority of everybody got better. Actually, there's a win total that's lower to this one. I should have started with this other team. I didn't realize this win total dropped, but
what was a
it
tie?
feels
Because I
like
saw 2 at 11.5. So it's fine.
okay. All right, so it feels like a lot of teams got better, and some teams got to be closer to the bottom. And yeah, because I think that there's another team that is lower on this spectrum that I'm actually going to take the over on. So I'm going to have to go under on the Washington Mystics minus 105, under 11 and a half. So missed playoffs, of course, but that's minus 390. We're not talking about that. All right. Next team up on the slate, we have the Los Angeles Sparks, who now I see with a win total of 10.5, minus
Oh, okay.
102 to the over, minus 128 to the under. Sparks
Once again, shop your lines. I saw 11.5.
Yeah.
So
Shop your lines. Sparks plus 430 to make the playoffs, minus 670 to miss the playoffs. They missed the playoffs last year by the skin of their teeth, but it still wasn't any good. They were 17-23 last year, 9th in the WNBA, and it didn't get that good for them in the offseason. They did lose Nneka Ogwumike. They ended up trading Jordan Canada over to Atlanta. Jordan Canada's in Atlanta now. That's gonna be fun. So Jordan Canada's over in Atlanta. Nneka is over in Seattle now. They go and they draft Cameron Brink, and they draft Rakia Jackson from the Vols, Tennessee. So they have another wing, and Rakia Jackson can score. So I think when she gets into WNBA speed, she's going to be really, really good. Cameron Brink looked good in that preseason game as well. And so it's going to be more of a defensive. I feel like a little bit more of a defensive presence for this Los Angeles team. They have a lot of size with Brink, with Hambry, with Jackson. Mo Billings came over in that Atlanta trade. You know, we remember Mo Billings. That's another big that they have. We'll see how they end up with cuts and if they end up keeping all these bigs. But here we are, 10.5.
you want to go first?
I want to see it. I want to see it, but I don't. I want to see it, but I don't. I just think that I think again, this is really not trying not to take anything away, but this is a completely different team. Honestly, truly, this is a completely different team from last year. Lexi Brown was out with, I think she had Crohn's disease. Actually, I think it was something like that. It's some type of illness she had, and that basically took her out the entire year. Now she's back. She's ready to play better. She's going to be a good role player, somebody to 3 and D type of player for them, especially taking on the best perimeter player on the outside. That's going to help them out. Cameron Brink, of course, defensively, I think even in her first year, she's going to have a force in the WNBA. But who's the leading scorer of this team? Is it De'Arica Hambry? Is De'Arica Hambry going to end up leading the Sparks in scoring?
It's a serious problem. I mean, you said that they have a lot of size and they're going to have to be a bit more defensive. They can't score. So they're going to have to be defensive because they might be a great under team throughout the entire season. I can't imagine them playing at a fast pace. I can't imagine them scoring a bunch of points. They're going to try to grind it out and find ways to win. I think this will be the worst team in the league. If I had to go with, I'd say, a worse record pick. The Mystics at least have some veteran leadership who maybe can find ways, crafty ways to steal games, and they are pretty good at home. The Sparks are kind of just going full transition youth movement because you ended up taking Brink, who's going to have to play a lot of minutes. Is she going to be solid in her first year? We don't know. Some players can transition well and quickly,
It's hard.
and some can't.
It's so hard to be like... And it's so funny. We didn't even talk about it early to start the show, but Candace Parker did retire this offseason. We'll talk about her a little bit more when we get to the Aces at the end of the show. But Candace Parker won MVP her rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, people don't just do that. And I think that, we'll talk about season award odds, and that's going to be a discussion later on this week. But rookies don't just walk into this league and be completely dominant. Like, it's only 144 women in the league. So this is 144 of the best players on the planet coming to play.
I'll give you an example. Like, Aaliyah Boston had a solid rookie season, but like she didn't dominate and just immediately become a top 5 player in the league. Candace Parker came in and was immediately like top 3. Like, that doesn't happen. But the issue that I think I have with Brink in this one kind of goes back to the offense. At Stanford, they ended up getting eliminated. I don't want to say early in the tournament, but I'd say that they have definitely had better years in the past. Do you think that her offense is immediately going to be ready for her to just create her own shots on a regular basis? I'm not sure about that. I feel like the issue I might run into with Brink, I don't know how many shot creators they have on this team, and I'm not sure Brink's one of them. She might have to work on some stuff in order to actually excel at the next level. I think she's going to struggle early in her career. I don't know if you agree with me on that. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I think defensively she'll be solid. Offensively, though, to go back to your point, there's going to be a massive amount of, I'd say, pressure on her to generate points early in her career because there are really not many great options on this team. And I don't think she's going to excel in that immediate role in a rookie season. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I agree. I think that the comp that I would look to is a lesser version of Shakira Austin over there in Washington. Just talking about Washington. Shakira Austin came into the league and she looked really, really good, but she had ADD, she had Natasha Cloud, she had all these other options to kind of really take the pressure off her, and she just kind of hooped. But it's not that many options, man.
She'll get some touches there, but she's not a number 1 option as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. They need a point guard. They need an actual point guard. And we'll see if Aria McDonald ends up carving out a spot on the roster and she's able to do that. Zaya Cook probably going to get a lot of minutes this season. And at some point, I think Zaya Cook's probably going to have to take over as the point guard role because they really, really need a point guard. But
I think she's going to start most of the season, personally.
We'll see what Kia Nurse. It's been a little while since we've seen Kia Nurse out there playing consistent basketball. So I'm looking forward to it, and I can't really see it. Not enough for an over, definitely not. So I'm on the under with the Sparks with you, under 10.5 here.
Do you agree though? Worst team in the league, worst record.
Yeah. I think they probably finish at 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah, I had 8 wins as the first number on my mind.
Yeah. All right. NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting because Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. You can play the fantasy pick'em, selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and much more. And it doesn't have to be just NBA. You can, when the WNBA seasons, you can do NBA and WNBA. You can do baseball. You can do MMA, golf. You can put all of that into a lineup and win up to 100 times your money. Underdog is available in 30 plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. So we're going to be giving out Underdog lineups all season. Make sure you tune up to that. We're going to definitely have a bunch of Underdog entries for the WNBA. Make sure you sign up with promo code NBA SGPN. That is NBA SGPN. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code NBA SGPN. And Florida. Make sure you tap in with their Champions player versus player format in Florida. You have an opportunity to sign up with Underdog as well. So make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. All right. Got the chat rolling. Lane Elliott here, ready for the WNBA season. It's going to be good. Everybody. Hey, Skrills is already locked in on that Sparks under as well. Good play. Hopefully you got it at a higher number too. 11.5. That just feels like a lot. I don't know how they get to 12 wins. I really don't. All right. Next team up, Chicago Sky. The next win total on the board here. Sky are actually plus 280 to make the playoffs, minus 390 to miss the playoffs. They have a win total of 11.5, minus 120 to the over, minus 106 to the under. Now, the Sky they've been in the news a lot recently, and they just had a really good preseason game against our New York Liberty.
I think you're underselling that. They won by 48 points. They won by 48
Hey, man.
I want to throw that out there. They did win by 48 points.
It's also the preseason. I
got preseason doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying, you said a good game. They won by 48 points. It's tough.
All right. They had a little bit better than a good game against our New York Liberty. This is going to be an interesting team. So let's talk about some of the additions. we have, first off, let's talk about the addition that was here last year that we didn't get to see. Isabel Harrison is healthy this year. That's gonna be really, really good. And I'm trying to tell people, it's a lot of people that were not tapped into the WNBA. She is a great player. She's able to score. She has the length to defend. Like, she is somebody that can help lead this team. And I hope she looks really, really good after the injury that she had last year. And so Isabel Harrison, she was on the team last year, didn't play at all, season-ending injury before the season even started. And I believe it was in Athletes Unlimited when she got hurt. So
yeah.
So now she's here. We also have Brianna Turner coming over from the Phoenix Mercury, another big for them. We also have Lindsay Allen coming over from the Lynx. She's going to be a nice depth bench piece for them as well. And then Diamond DeShields is coming over back to Chicago. She won a championship with Chicago. She's back with Chicago here. We have Angel Reese and Camila Cardosa coming over in the draft. Now, Cardosa is going to be out for some time with a shoulder injury that happened in that first preseason game. So that sucks.
Probably a month or two.
Yeah, Angel Reese, 13-5 in 19 minutes tonight, 13-5 in the preseason game. And then my personal favorite, Michaela Onyenwere, former New York Liberty. She comes over from the Mercury and she adds on to this team. Kennedy Carter might make team, Scott. Kennedy Carter, I don't think she played basketball last year. I don't think she was consistently on a team last year. Maybe a little bit, but I don't think she wasn't on a team last year. So Kennedy Carter is back in the W, and she looked good tonight, 4 for 8, 11 points. So we'll see if she ends up making the roster or not. But I'm intrigued. I am intrigued by the Chicago Sky because do I think that they're gonna be, one of the best teams in the league and towards the top? Like, of course, we know who the 2 top teams are, and we kind of have a feeling of who the next tier is. Do I think they're gonna be up there with them? No. But I think they're going to be scrappy, and I think they're going to steal a few games around here. They have the ability to defend. They actually have players that can generate offense for them. Marina Mabry can get going from 3. Dana Evans can get going. I think Dana Evans is actually going to be their starting point guard this year, so I'm interested to see what that looks like. She's been playing off the bench for a number of years for them, so it's good to see what she'll do in the starting role for them. Lindsay Allen's coming over. We know that she can get hot from 3. Kennedy Carter can score the basketball. Her scoring was never the reason that she wasn't in W last year, so she's going to be able to score. So if she ends up making the roster, that's another depth piece. And then the top it all off for me is Isabel Harrison. If Izzy is back, I think that this Sky team has now that player that they can go to in the final 2 to 3 minutes of the game and go get them a bucket. They're gonna finish right at 12 or 13 wins. I know it. They're gonna finish right at 12 or 13 wins. I'm taking over.
So I'm going to be a little bit higher on them than you are, actually. I think this actually might be a sleeper team to maybe sneak into the last playoff spot.
Ooh.
I like the blend that they have between veteran presence and youth. Now, of course, the injury that you have to Cardozo sucks. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. Angel Reese, I think, is going to be an immediate impact player. Is she going to be a star? No. But I do think she can give you solid starter minutes if needed, or maybe just give you a nice boost as a sixth man, first person off the bench. I think you're looking at a spot where I don't know what you want to call it. Is it sixth woman? What, sixth man? What do you want to call
it? Hey man, just six person.
Sixth person?
You got pronouns and stuff too. Sixth person. We're not getting canceled before the season starts.
So she might be a good first option off a bench, maybe a solid spot starter. Point is, I do think this team has a nice blend of veteran presence who can score and youth. And I think Cardozo can be a very solid defensive anchor when she is healthy. So I do think this team can find a way to finish over this win total. And you got to remember, a lot of the teams that make the playoffs every year, like the last team in or two, they're below 500. Like they're usually like hovering those 14, 15 win spots. You're telling me Chicago can't get there? I think it's doable. I think that assuming that you're going to have a couple of bottom feeder teams like usual, and assuming that you're going to see a spot where maybe you can get into the playoffs at 14 or 15 wins. You think Chicago can get there? I think they can. I think the roster is pretty deep, actually, for a team with a win total this low. I'll go with the over.
Yeah.
Am I nuts, or do you think they can actually
So
sneak
you're
in?
sprinkling on plus 280.
I think they got a shot at it. Landon's coming in here
That's a fun
telling me
bet.
that the Sky are a 10.5 on ESPN.
Yeah.
I would bet that in a second.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good. Like I think they're going to be scrappy. I like the makeup of the team, and I think that the casual new WNBA fan is going to look at this team and think they have no shot. And it's going to be plenty of times. I already know it. It's going to be plenty of times where the Chicago Sky are a large underdog and they're going to win outright, and people are going to be like, "Oh, see, that's why you don't bet the WNBA. This team was a 6, 7, 8, 9 point favorite, and they lost outright." And they actually don't watch the sport, but this team looks like they profile to be scrappy, and I'm excited.
I think
So
280 is worth a flyer. Like, I think this
yeah,
team has a shot to potentially overachieve if the young pieces gel with the older players quickly than we think they might. But they have
yeah.
a certain swagger to them. They have a certain confidence. They have players that have been around the block before. 12.5, 10.5, according to Landon. I think that's a hell of a deal.
All right. Before we get into the next team on the slate, gotta talk to you about Royal Retros. No, I lied. Yeah, no, it is Royal Retros. Royal Retros, looking to improve that ball. What a better way than showcase your old school fandom than to use some old school gear from a classic team. Royal Retros has jerseys, t-shirts, hats, jackets, sweatshirts, and more from the vintage sports leagues and teams that you know and love. The Dirty Bird, the Orange Crust, or the Sack Exchange all make for sick jerseys for real fans. So I got to go on their site and I have to go out there because I know for a fact I need some retro Giants gear. I need the retro OG Giants gear, like the
LT?
Giants logo. Yeah, the Giants logo across the helmet, like where it says Giants. Oh, I missed. That stuff was fire, man. That stuff was fire. The Giants actually have some really good throwback uniforms that I really do enjoy. So I got to make sure I go get me some. You got to make sure you go get you some. Use promo code SGPN for 10% off your order. 10% off your first order. That is code SGPN at royalretros.com. Take 10% off today. All right. Next game up on not next game. I'm a little ahead of myself. I'm excited for next week. Next team, the Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota Lynx come in with a team total of 17.5 here, plus money, even money on the over, minus 128 on the under.
I saw 16.5, but close enough.
All right. And then let's see here for the Minnesota Lynx, we have additions. So they did lose Lindsey Allen. Kind of talked about that. You still have Nafis Carter coming in for another season. Diamond Miller, of course. Man, I mean, Tisha Heidemann and Courtney Williams just can't get enough of each other. They can't. Now they're back on the same team again. And then Tisha Heidemann comes over from the Connecticut Sun. She's going to be taking over that backcourt with Courtney Williams. So 2 former Connecticut Sun holding up the backcourt. They also draft Alyssa Pile over from Utah. Really, really good forward. Really looking forward to see what she does in the WNBA. She should have a spot on that roster when it's all said and done. And overall, this team kind of looks like about the same team that we've seen this Minnesota team have. Just, a couple of new additions here or there. Alana Smith also comes over from the Chicago Sky. She's carved out a role for her in that starting lineup. We have that's about it. That's all I have here. So this is what I'll ask you, and this is the context that I'll put in, because the W is so good. Like, the players are so good that there are really, really good players that go by the wayside. If we sat here and we named MVP candidates, there would be a conversation about Nafisa Collier. Now, realistically, no, because she's not, she's not Stewie, she's not Asia Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, like, she's not the upper echelon. But she's one of the best players in the league and is by far easily top 10 player. You can make the conversation for top 5. Can she do enough, Scott? With Courtney Williams and Tisha Heidemann, Diamond Miller has another season. Can she do enough to get over this win total?
So I have to at least acknowledge that the Lynx did finish last year over. Actually, they finished around this number. They went over to end the season. Ended up going 19-21. So if you do think they end up kind of repeating what they did last year, they'll find a way over. The issue is there are teams that I think got better. I mean, we didn't even mention a couple of teams with significantly higher win totals than last year, where they ended up at. I think Minnesota might take a step back. I'm not saying it's going to be by a lot. This is a team that I think is going to be on the cusp. It's going to come down to the final week as far as I'm concerned.
It's going to be 17 or 18. They're going to figure
That's exactly how I feel. This is my least favorite of the win totals we talked about so far. I'm going to lean under. Collier played almost every game. She missed 3 games. So you always have to worry about injuries based on the fact that she carries the entire team half the time. I'm going to lean under. I just think that other teams around them got better, and I'm not sure they got better. I know they made some moves in general, but do you think on paper this is a more talented team than last year? That I don't know. I'm worried that they're about to plateau and the league got better around them. So I'll lean to the under in this one.
I wouldn't say that they're a worse team than last year, but I think they held serve. They lost some pieces and they gained some pieces. Yeah, they lost some pieces and they gained some pieces, and that's not enough. That's not enough when there's a lot of other teams around the league that got better. And somebody's got to be like, some teams have to be, this is the 4th team we talk about. There's got to be 4 teams at the bottom. No matter what goes on this season, there's got to be 4 teams at the bottom.
Are you thinking this would be one of your teams at the bottom?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I think
I'm not picking them to be at the way bottom, but I think they'll be like hovering for that final playoff spot.
Yeah. I think I have my 8 playoff teams. The last spot is interchangeable, but I have the first 7 locked in. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go under 17.5 for the Lynx. They're gonna be in it with probably 2 other teams for that final playoff spot. All right. Next team up, we have the Phoenix Mercury. 18.5 on the win total, -120 on the over, -106 on the under. Playoffs for the Mercury is -310. Ooh.
Remember last year when we took them to miss the
playoffs? Oh yeah. I was getting to it. No, it's +230. It's not as juicy as it was last year, but +230 for them to miss the playoffs. And this team is effectively a completely different team as well. And early on, I will say this, and I think that they may force me to eat my words, maybe, because early on in the offseason, when they had the draft lottery and they missed out on a top pick, I thought that it was basically over and there was no way this team was going to get better. What do? They trade the picks they have. They go get Kalia Copper from the Sky. Huge. Kalia Copper and Sophie Cunningham being on the same team now is peak level comedy. If for my people that watch the NBA and you're coming over just watching the WNBA, if you want to comp to Kalia Copper and Sophie Cunningham playing together, it's like when who was it? When Rondo joined the Lakers.
Yeah.
Maybe you think so? When Russ and Rondo was playing together, and Russ and Pat Bev was playing together, like those type of rivalries.
It's going to be a volatile combination. They're either going to work well together, they're going to try to kill each other. There's no in between. It's going to go one way or another.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I love the W. Diana Taurasi is back for her age 100 season, man.
If you want to comp, by the way, it's D'Angelo Russell and Nick Young on the same team.
I don't think it's as messy as that. That was messy. That was
a little harsh, but I'm doing the best I can.
I'm going with the Russ and Rondo combination or the Russ and Pat Bev. I'm going Russ and Pat Bev actually. I'm going Russ and Pat Bev.
Russ and Pat Bev can make sense.
All right, so Kalia Copper on the team now. You also have Natasha Cloud, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. She's on this team now. Brittany Griner showed you last year that she's still a walking 20-piece, which is insane after everything she went through to be able to come back into the W and play as well for that. I mean,
I have to at least point out, though, I don't know how much you can fully rely on Griner for an entire season for a win total, because she did come back and then she left again for mental reasons. So there's no guarantee she will be able to complete the entire season, but it's nice to see her back. I want to at least mention that, because she did miss time after she returned because she wanted to take a break for mental purposes. So just keep that in mind, and maybe she might miss some games too. So she might not be guaranteed to play 30-plus games, but she can give you a solid stat line if she plays.
They also get Mo Birch over from the Sky in that trade. They have Beck Allen on this team as well. I mean, hey, man.
They have talent. Okay, so I just want to ask you.
This is the issue. Yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
I'll let you go. There's one main concern I got to mention, but I'll let you go first.
No. I'll give it to you first.
Okay.
I
have
went
to
first.
ask, since it seems like you're on the fence, I'm not. I'm going to lean under with this team.
Oh, wow. You are.
The main reason why I think this team is going to underperform, and I have to ask you if you think I'm wrong here, are we sure Tarazi's ego is going to let her take a back seat on this team? Or is she going to go full retirement tour, I'm going to get mine, and it's going to turn into Kobe in his final season with the Lakers? She's just going to take 15, 20 shots a game, and they're just going to start chucking. Like, that's kind of my concern. My concern is that Tarazi, what we saw last year, she cannot be a main focal point of an offense anymore. She's one of the all-time best players. We know this, but we know that she can also be a bit of an egomaniac. And my concern is, if there's better options on the team, will they have the heart to tell her that she needs to take a back seat? Or is she going to have a hard time because it's her final time here? She's been the best player in franchise history. Are they going to let her call the shots in her final season? And my concern is that it's going to turn into Kobe with the Lakers, where she's going to try to do whatever she can to put up big stat lines in her final season to go with a bang, and wins become a secondary concern. I'm concerned that Tarazi's last season might turn into a circus. Am I wrong for feeling that could be a possibility?
No, I don't think it is at all, because you've already, I mean, if you've been tapped into WNBA Twitter and WNBA media recently, it's already kind of been a circus. She came out with the, the criticisms about Caitlin Clark, and that is going to be a little bit rougher for her in the WNBA, and everybody chastised for it. They went out and they put up the post about her being the white mamba, the Phoenix Mercury did, and everybody came at her for it again. And which I think is actually hilarious, because Kobe actually, like,
Kobe's
he literally
cool
gave her the name.
So I don't know what the problem
like,
is.
I don't, he gave her the name. I guess people really didn't watch Kobe's funeral, because Diana Taurasi spoke at the funeral and literally said, "Hi, I'm Diana Taurasi, and I am the white mamba." Like,
and she's earned
because
it. She's
Kobe,
arguably the most successful or best WNBA player of all time. So she
like,
can say
she's in that conversation. And so, and it's so funny, because for a podcast that cooks Diana Taurasi at her age now, and as you can hear now, we're probably starting to cook her before the season starts. But for a podcast that is not anti Diana Taurasi, but we cook 40-year-old Diana Taurasi pretty well.
To be fair, they won 9 games last year, and we had them to miss the playoffs. So it's not like
and
we
they had a win
total.
They had a win total of 21.5.
Yeah,
last year
we
that
were
win
100%
total was
right about the team. It's why we're skeptical. But a big reason for that is that you could tell Tarazi was yelling at the coaching staff. She was yelling at, like, teammates. It was a problem. And we've seen this not even just for Kobe, but I'll give you an example for maybe some of the other veteran guys. I don't want to say it's like Allen Iverson. I never heard of no all-star coming off the bench, but it's kind of the same argument. You've been that good for that long. You've been on top of the mountain for that long. And now you have other players, better options, and you have to accept to yourself, I'm not her anymore. I don't know if she's going to be able to do that, because based on her overall, I'd say, personality, I don't think she'll be willing to hand the keys over to somebody else. I think that could be a serious problem throughout the course of the season.
So here's my argument against that. And I would understand that if this is Diana Taurasi and she's playing with a young roster. But this is a veteran championship level roster that she has. Not championship level as in I think they're competing for a championship, but they have championship pedigree players that have won championships before. Brittany Griner, You have Natasha Cloud. You have Kalia Copper, who was a Finals MVP. Like, you have these players that now it's a lot easier to take that back seat. It
On
is.
paper, this could be a top 4 team in the league. On paper.
Yes. Kalia Copper, Finals MVP, WNBA champion. That's the person where I think, hey, I'm cool deferring to her, because she's had that pedigree. She's been there. I'm trying to have a good season. And I think ultimately that's how I kind of want to turn this around into a positive for the Mercury, because this is the last ride. This is going to be the last ride. Well, I would think that this is going to be the last ride. She ain't never said anything official yet, but I would assume. And they're going to get up. I think they're going to get up for a good majority of games this season. I think this Mercury team is no longer losing to the bottom feeders of the league. And so that now I have a baseline of them winning games. And now if you go and you steal a couple games, like you steal games from, some of these teams we ain't talked about yet, they're going to be pretty interesting. I think that I'm just going to go over. I have them penciled in as a playoff team. I think they're going to be in that 7 to 8 spot there, and they're going to do enough wins to basically get there. So, yeah, I'm with them. I think the Mercury get it done here. I'm on the over 18.5, but it's close. I really do think the Mercury and the Lynx both in basically around their win total one. You're gonna get hooked, whether you have the over or the under. It's gonna be hooked one way or another. That's how
we do agree, though, they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I just think they might be able to fight there with 16 or 17. I'm not saying they're going to fully bottom out again, because I think the team's too talented for that. You're still optimistic about the overall talent. I'm concerned about the ego attached to what could be a farewell season. And that's a bit of my concern there. So I'll lean under because of it.
All right. Next team up, the Atlanta Dream. Atlanta Dream have a win total of 18.5 as well. The over is plus 122. The under is minus 156. Atlanta Dream had a bunch of moves this offseason and moves as early as this week. Actually, they made a trade this week. So we have for the Atlanta Dream, Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray coming back this season. Tina Charles is playing minutes for them in the preseason right now. I don't know how long that's going to keep going, but Tina Charles is back in the W playing minutes for them in the preseason. You have Cheyenne Parker Tyus, who is married now. She's back with this team. And then they bring in Aerial Powers. That could be good. I would love to see what Aerial Powers could possibly bring to this team. They go and they bring in Kadisha K from Baylor. So I think that this is the difference between the Dream and I think between the Lynx and the Mercury is the Dream have more of a youth movement going on. Haley Jones, Ryan Howard, Cheyenne's 34, and my bad, not her, but you have Cave coming in, 29 years old. She potentially could make this team. You have Nia Coffey coming back for another year. She's more than likely going to make the team. You have Aerial Powers coming in, and even though she's older, we've seen Aerial Powers have 30-point games in the W, 30-point burgers in the W. If she makes the team, she's going to be offense off the bench for them. You have a Kalia Hillsman who possibly could make the team. Like, there's still some cuts that needs to be looked at over the course of this week, but I think that there's a little bit of a younger youth movement here. I think that they do have Alicia Gray, Tina Charles, like you have some veteran experience. And even though some of these players, like these players are veterans, they're young, but they're veterans. So the question here for the Atlanta Dream is, are they going to be able to beat the good teams?
I think it's a pretty funny coincidence because this team reminds me of the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can argue the Indiana Pacers. You get the point. They don't guard anybody. They're going to try to
just have offense. It's just have offense, all offense. Everybody that I named, everybody that I named is offense. Like everybody.
And even last year, by the way, to go through the record, they finished 19-21. They gave up roughly 1.5 more points per game. They had a point differential of negative 1.5. So they gave up a ton of points. They're going to be fun. The issue is, do you think that, first of all, I think that Howard takes a leap because she had a very good rookie season and she's been solid in her young career. How big of a leap does she need to make for Atlanta to potentially push 20 wins? Can she stay the same, or do you think she has to actually leap up in order for them to get to 20? Because they had 19 last year. That's why I'm asking.
I know, and I think that she does leap up. I
Okay.
think the question mark is how good is Haley Jones in year 2?
Okay. It's fair.
How good is Haley Jones in year 2? Because how are they going to play? Because it looks like, as of right now, I'm looking at the preseason game. They had Haley Jones, Ryan Howard, and Alicia Gray all in the starting lineup. Who's handling the ball? Are we going to see more off ball Ryan Howard this year? Are we going to see Haley Jones handling the ball and kind of playing as that pseudo point guard and creating for Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard, running the offense? Cheyenne Parker, we know she's she's going to be able to rebound. Tina Charles, we know how she gets down, and it looks like that she's not looking to slow down at all, and she's going to be ready to go, and play a lot of pick and roll, get easy rim runs to the basket. So I think that I'm on. If you told me that Area Powers is back playing meaningful minutes for this team, and she is a consistent scoring option on the bench, then I think that there's something similar to the Dallas Wings last year, where the defense is horrible, but the offense is good enough to carry them to 20 wins. But
Yeah. For reference,
I
by the
don't.
way, Dallas won 22 games last year.
I don't I don't know. I don't know how the bench is gonna play out. I have to wait to see. I have to wait to see. I feel like this is probably a team that I'm gonna want to get in maybe after a few games on the win total. Maybe they lose a few games, but I look and I see the team. I'm like, wait, this team has potential, and I go hop it on the over. Or maybe they go out early and they're winning a whole bunch of games, but they're not winning games by margin and giving up a bunch of points. Then I'm probably gonna look to get a live under here. But as of right now, I hate to lay the juice, but it's really, really close. I think they're 18, 19 wins.
I'm going to lean over. I don't feel great about it, but if they repeated at 19 and 21, I would not be shocked.
Not as shocked at all. And I actually think that's the end result. I really do think that's the end result. So it's gonna be
I'll
tough.
lean over. Once again, it's going to be a team that's going to frustrate you because you're
Mhm.
basically betting the female version of the Atlanta Hawks. They're not going to guard anybody. They're going to need a bunch of points every game, and they're going to have a bunch of swings up and down, either individual games or in stretches of the season. So you might want to watch them play. You definitely want to bet their overs, bet their player props if they come out. But
Now,
yeah, this is going to be a very fun team to watch. I'm just not sure how effective the team's going to be.
also, let's pay attention to one thing. Crystal Dangerfield did get traded here on Saturday.
Okay.
So that's literally the only person that has a pulse on defense. If she makes the team, we don't know if she's going to make the team or not. We'll see by the end of the week. When
They have a lot of
finish
guards
cut.
on the roster anyway. But
Yeah, so Crystal Dangerfield. That, and maybe she pushes Haley back and make Haley, a 6-1 off the bench, and Crystal Dangerfield comes in, because we've seen her play starting minutes in New York. We've seen her play starting minutes in Dallas. She's wherever she's gone, even in Minnesota, where she won Rookie of the Year. So, hey, Crystal Dangerfield is still a relentless defender. She could work out a starting role on this team. So let's pay attention to that.
for
as
the
well.
record, I am not a big fan of Dangerfield's offense. I'll go on record
No.
and say that. I do not think she's a good offensive player, but she's exactly what this team needs. She can give them some type of defensive intensity, maybe to just set the tone.
Mhm.
I don't want to compare her to like Matisse Thybulle, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she's one of those. I think she's a good fit for this team, but it also seems like that's a potential last-ditch effort to save the defensive integrity to some degree. But a lot of those players they have, key contributors, don't play much defense, and that's going to be a problem.
Landon said if it's Hawks by comparison, they shouldn't sniff the playoffs. It's a lot more teams in the NBA.
I don't know if I can agree with that, though, because the Hawks were a playing team. Like, the Hawks, as bad as they were still, like, hanging around.
Yeah.
Because, like the WNBA, a lot of teams below 500 are still fighting in the last week for a playoff spot. So, I think they're in the middle of that argument. The ceiling's the Pacers, the floor's the Hawks, and you're kind of just going from there.
And you got to remember, this is a team that competes with the Aces when they play them too.
Yeah. I'm going to lean over. I think they'll finish with 19 or 20. I'm also lower on the Mercury than you are, so that's a couple extra, I'm switching around some spots.
Yeah. Okay, next team up. This is going to be fun. I'm so interested where you're at on this team, because I'm already locked in. The Indiana Fever have a win total of 20.5, minus 125 on the over, minus 102 on the under. I mean, there's no point in burying the lead here. Caitlin Clark. That's the big addition. That's the thing everybody's looking at in the Indiana Fever. Outside of Caitlin Clark, it's actually literally the exact same team.
But now Boston has an actual point guard.
Yes, she does. And so
I like the under.
I love the under. I actually already locked up the under at under 21.5. It's now at 20.5. So some CLV on my end. Here's the thing that I need everybody to understand. As good as Caitlin is, there's a lot of fucking good players in the WNBA, man. There's a lot of fucking good players. And I think that I wouldn't even say it's not even a critique of Caitlin. It's of everybody else that are fans of her. I don't think anybody ever has a problem with Caitlin. It's just everybody else that are fans of her that refuse to acknowledge the other really, really, really good players in the, not even just in the W, but on this team. Like really, really good players, man. And so while this team has buku offense, I mean, you talk about Caitlin Clark. You have Kelsey Mitchell, who is a former
One of our favorites on the show.
yeah, a former, I think she led the league in scoring one year. So, she's a 20 point per game scorer in the
I think she was, and
past.
she got injured. I'm not sure if she officially qualified that year, but she was at the point.
Okay. So it was like some 22 points per game. It was insane, yo. Like Jewel Lloyd numbers. Like Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most underrated players in the league, by the way. Just because she played on, not the most high profile team. Very, very underrated player. Erica Wheeler, we know she can score. Aaliyah Boston, Elisa Smith, we know how they get down low. They're probably going to be, arguably, they're going to be one of the top front courts. Like those two are going to be really, really good for a court in another year in the league. Like this is a really, really good offense. For all of that, there wasn't much changes on this team outside of Caitlin Clark. This team was last place in the league last year in opponents' points per game, 85.1 points per game. They were a horrible defense, one of the worst defenses in the league. That is a reason why they lost so many games, because they could not stop anybody. As much as they could score, they couldn't stop anybody. I think this is the same situation. Caitlin Clark is going to add so much offense to this team. This team is going to be really good offensively, but
she's also a terrible defensive player. We can say that.
And so not only is she a terrible defensive player, but she just went into a lineup that hasn't been a good defensive lineup. And now they're going to be hoping and praying that Aaliyah Boston takes such a far leap defensively this year that she kind of hides some of that. But that defense, man, that defense is going to be so questionable, man. They're going to be so questionable. I think that's going to be the reason why they don't beat the good teams. Like, I think that they'll handle business against some of the bottom feeders in the league, but I think they're going to be competitive. I do. Like, this Fever team was competitive last year, but they just didn't win games. And you're telling me that I think Caitlin's going to come in here and automatically add an additional 8-9 wins to the win total?
Yeah. They won 13 last year, for reference.
The Fever got the first pick for a reason, people. Like, at the end of the day, I understand, if we're getting new viewership and you are very, very big Caitlin Clark fans, you have to remember that the Fever had the first pick for a reason.
That was the first time, by the way, that they won double-digit games since 2019. They've been in an absolute dumpster fire in the WNBA. They're the worst franchise by far for the last 3-4 years. I understand that she's great. I understand that she carried Iowa to back-to-back title games. It's a lot.
And the difference
to carry this entire franchise, like it's not great.
The difference between carrying Iowa in college and trying to carry a WNBA team is that the WNBA is composed of 144 players. Again, these are the more you could argue with, there's a couple of people that might be able to slide in there, but these are arguably the best 144 players on the planet. And it's not like you're going and you're playing who knows who from where in the Big Ten, and you're not going to get that same level of competition. This is at a different level of competition. And so as good as I think she is going to be, I don't think that this Fever team, 20 plus wins for a league that only had 4 teams 2 of which were the Aces and the Liberty. The other
Yeah.
2 were the Sun and the Wings, get to 20 wins last year. And now they have to get over 20 and a half. I'm not buying it.
Trivia question, by the way. Since we talked about Indiana and how they had less than 7 wins in 3 straight years before last season, do you want to guess what year was the last time the Fever won 21-plus games?
The year they won the championship?
That is correct. 2012. Now, I will point out, they did add extra games to the schedule. That was something that was added a year or 2 ago. So there are more games. But they have not won 21-plus games in basically 11 straight seasons. That's a massive bump. Now, are they going to be good? I think they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They kind of remind me of Ionescu in her first year with the Liberty. They weren't very good. They found a way to get into the playoffs. They were fun. Maybe they peaked, or maybe they found a groove at the end of the year. I just see a lot of games that come down to the wire that are not going to pan in their direction. They're just not going to work out for them. So,
I mean,
I see
look
this
at the
team
preseason game. That was a fun preseason game, and
I see
it
them
came
winning
down to
17 games.
Enrique.
I see 17, give or take. You're also assuming they stay fully healthy. I
Yeah.
also hated the way the coaching staff used Aaliyah Boston last year. It drove us nuts.
The second half not utilizing Aaliyah Boston, and now they have another reason not to use her in the second half. Best first half player in the league last year.
I'm just worried about the rotations. I'm concerned that the coaching staff's not going to maximize the Boston-Clark combo the way that they should. I'll go with the under. But it's mostly a sell-high spot. They sold in reputation. Caitlin's going to walk into the league and carry this team to 20-plus wins. Relax.
That's a lot to ask, man. That is a lot to ask. That is a lot to ask. That's like saying that Wemby was going to come in on the Spurs and he was going to pull them to somehow get in 45 wins in a playoff spot.
Yeah. Or it's like
as much hype as Wemby had going into that season, it still wasn't good, man.
Yeah.
All right. Next team up on the slate, we have the Dallas Wings. Here we go. We are working our way down. Dallas Wings have a win total of 20. And see, like, okay, this is the number one issue right here. The Dallas Wings have a win total of 20 and a half too. This Wings team is better than the Fever. Just off of the fact that, because I know the Wings don't play defense. I'm not going to, roast the Fever for not playing defense and not roast the Wings. The Wings don't play defense, but the Wings have shown that their offense literally outplays how bad their defense plays. Like by far and away outplays how bad their defense plays, and that's why they end up with 20 wins every year. And I took the under last year, and they shut me up because they outplay their defense. They constantly do it every year, and I can't wait to talk about this Wings team this year because, of course, you have Enrique coming back, Natasha Howard coming back, and Tierra McGowan coming back. You have Maddie Segrist, who looks like they're going to start using her this year, Scott. They didn't use her last year. That's a big offensive threat that, in college that everybody talked about, and she wasn't really used that much last year. It seems like she's worked her way up the depth chart this year. But have you seen Jaylen Brown play?
She's a hooper. And she can go left.
I mean, Jaylen Brown might be able to give Jaylen Brown some problems. I'm not even going to hold you. Jaylen Brown, I mean, of course, this is such a talented draft class. I think she might be one of the players that I'm most excited to see this season.
There is one serious problem, though, with this team, which we have to talk about, because when we talk about injuries and we talk about how important they are, Sabally is officially going to be out until after the Olympic break. So you might know if this team's going over or under in the first month of the season, because they're going to need to at least keep pace until their best player. You want to say that? Best player, second best player?
Second best player.
Until their second best player comes back.
But yeah.
So they're going to have to try to hold serve. And the question is, can they? That's what scares me off on this win total. As much as I like this team, Satu was so damn good for this team last year.
Yeah.
And I'm just concerned that if she misses time, she's going to also have to work her way back slowly because she's going to have a procedure and they got to see how that goes. Does that scare you off? Because a part of me is concerned that they're going to get off to a bad start, and maybe I could jump in on a mid-season win total at a better number.
It did. until I kind of got sold on Jaylen Brown being really, really good, and she's gonna be able to help, take over some of that offense. Like they have the big, so it's not like Tierra McGowan is still there, and she's gonna dominate. Dominate. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. At what point are we ever not gonna take Tierra McGowan's rebounds this season? Like until Satsu comes
With
back, at
Sably
what point
being
are
out, she's going to average like
what
14 and 15.
at what point are we ever not going to take her rebounds? Like, there's never a point where we're not going to take a rebound. So you have that aspect. You have Arike, we know, but Jaylen Brown coming in and being able to add another perimeter score. Like when Satu comes back, this team
This
is
offense is going to be
nice.
filthy.
This is they. I mean, if they could find any defensive identity, they jump a number of teams to become, number 3 in the league. Like if they could find any post defensively, they jump a number of teams.
There's a
This,
world, we saw this last year. I know they lost in the
mhm,
playoffs to the Aces. The games were competitive, but they ended up losing.
mhm.
They could give the Aces a serious run if they're fully healthy in a playoff series. I'm not sure they'd
Yo,
win, but
they were,
they can win a game or two. Like I think they might be able to make this interesting.
and I think people see the sweep and just think that, oh, the Aces dominate them. Those were competitive games.
There's competitive
Those in
fourth quarter.
the regular season,
But
they punched them in the mouth and beat them twice.
yeah,
So I'm with you. I'm with you. The offense is a lot, and I think the offense is enough. I'm tired of fading this Wings team. I do it every year, thinking that the offense is going to fall off one year, and it never does. It never does. So over 20 and a half, minus 128. I'm on the over. You are under?
I'm going to lean over, but to be honest, I can't bet this.
Ooh, yeah,
I'd
I understand.
rather wait for a better number in season. Actually, do I want the over? I think I have to lean under the more that I think about it. Because Salvo's going to be missing like a couple months. I think I have to lean under.
Let's see how they start their season. Let me see.
That's what I'm saying. I'd rather jump on it in season.
So they kick off the season with a back-to-back game set against the Sky.
Okay.
Dream, Mercury, Sparks, and Sun on the road. So a 4-game road span: Dream, Mercury, Sparks, Sun. That's the
It's not a
first
bad
month of the
start, though.
season.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
Aces
no,
and no
it's not.
Liberty. That's not a bad start for the season.
And then Commissioner Cup play opens up, and they get the Lynx. There's the first meet up with the Aces, and I doubt Satsu's definitely not going to be back in June. So
Yeah.
there's the first meetup with the Aces: Sparks, Mercury, Storm, to round out Commissioner Cup play right there. I think they hold serve. I think they can hold serve.
My point is there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to win a bunch of games once Satu comes back, and you have to worry
Yep.
about her easing her way back from rehab, etc. I'll lean under. But I do
Okay.
think this might be a very sneaky team to bet on to maybe even win the whole thing. If you want to find an insane long shot mid-season, wait till Satu comes back and see what the price is. Might be interesting.
Yeah. I they're gonna score, man. And it just takes one of these. Like we've seen it in years past with you know, uh, the Aces. What was it? The year the Aces, they thought it was that year that Chicago, yeah, that Chicago Mercury year where they thought the Aces and the Storm were gonna battle out for one of those spots, and then they both ended up losing out to the Mercury. Like,
Mercury were like a first round team and they made it all the way. They beat the Liberty, I
yep,
think, in the first game.
yep, they did. And so we'll see, man. We'll see. It's gonna be a fun year because I think that this what's different between this year and last year is I think that the gap that the Aces and the Liberty had last year has narrowed just slightly.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but slightly narrowed. All right. We're going back to the Connecticut Sun, man. All right. Last year's sweat was a lot. It was a lot to handle for me in this Sun team. Well, really just Alyssa Thomas, but we'll count the team as a whole. Connecticut Sun with win total of 23.5 wins. Over is minus 136. Under is plus 104. Here we are for the Connecticut. Well, whenever I can pull their team up. There we go. So Looking here, I already talked about losing Natisha Heidemann. They just made a trade today for Queen Egbo and brought in Queen Egbo into this team. So another defensive presence, another big. Brianna Jones should be back this year. She ended up, was it her Achilles? It was either Achilles or like an ACL or something like that. Some lower leg injury that took her out for the rest of the year. But Brianna Jones, really, really important, big for them. DeWanna Bonner's back for another year. Dejanay Carrington, Taisha Harris. Like Tiffany Mitchell is with this team this year. Alyssa Thomas back for another year. This is going to be Rachel Banham is on the team as well. So Mariah Jefferson. So this is going to be the Connecticut Sun team that they have a bunch of good veteran pieces, and they just continue to do what they always do. Play really good defense, get good looks at the basket on offense, win low scoring games. Sometimes they have an offensive explosion, but for the most part, this is probably going to be continuously one of the top three best defenses in the league, especially with Brianna Jones coming back, and now with the addition of Queen Egbo as well.
I mean, I just like the over. Like, I'm not going to spend much time. They're as steady as an organization as they come. They have a hard time of officially closing the deal in the playoffs, but I don't care about the playoffs. This is a regular season conversation. So I think they'll probably win 25. Alyssa Thomas is probably a top, 3-4 player in the league?
Easily top three. Top three. She should have won MVP last year. And
I think she got hosed, but my point is you have Brianna.
She led. By the way, for those who don't, because we have a bunch of new listeners this year, for those who are new listeners, Alyssa Thomas led the WNBA in first place MVP votes last year and did not win.
You still have Asia. You still have Brianna. I know Brianna in the playoffs was kind of a mess, and she ended up winning MVP. But the point is there are a couple of players who I would put above Alyssa Thomas, but not many. So they have her. They still have a lot of talent. They play great defense. There's a lot of veteran and overall just chemistry with this team. I got to like the over. This team walks into 25 games, wins basically every year. So give me Connecticut over. I'm not really going to spend much time on this.
Landon, we would love to know how it was possible that she didn't win either. We had a 50-1 fucking ticket on her to win MVP. So I
second
would
and third place votes. That's how.
She didn't get any second place votes. She either got first place votes or she got third/fourth place votes. That's really what the fuck blew her. She didn't get any second place votes. It was literally.
I think it was the closest WNBA MVP race of all time.
It was.
I think
it was. It was three players that were literally in it for and could have won it. It was like points. I think it was 5 points that was separating everybody. Like it wasn't a lot. So
I'm assuming you're on the
Alyssa
over
Thomas
as well.
NBA comp. I don't really know an NBA comp for Alyssa Thomas, but I would say that people would say, hey, I haven't seen a big be able to do what she can do like that since like Joker.
Yeah, that's fair. But the triple doubles will make it kind of. I mean, do you want to call her Candace Parker Light? Like, what do you want to call her?
Yeah. Like Candace Parker Light. The fact that how she's able to playmaking, and the playmaking is still going to be there, especially with the lack of guard depth that this team always have. And it always feels like that's going to be an issue, and it never is because Alyssa Thomas just says, yeah, no, I'm the point guard. We're going to get through it. I'm the point guard. I'm going to initiate the offense. I'm going to rebound. I'm going to defend. I'm going to score. I do it all. Really good, man.
So I like the over. I think you do too. But they're probably going to win 25.
All right. Let's move on. Now, after this team, it's going to be pretty easy because we know how we're doing the last two teams. But I cannot wait to see the Seattle Storm this season. Oh my gosh, Scott, at the end of the year, if the Seattle Storm dethrone one of the Aces or the Liberty to make it to the finals, are you going to be surprised?
I think I would be a bit surprised just because the Liberty and the Aces are that much better. Or at least based on reputation and based on the overall talent that they have. I do think that they can make it quite interesting. Let's put it that way. I'm not writing them off. Let's put it that way.
The Seattle Storm have a win total of, hold on, where is it at? 24.5, minus 104 to the over, minus 125 to the under. Jewel Lloyd. If you don't know, Jewel Lloyd is by far my favorite player in the league. She is
female Kyrie.
I mean, there's so many NBA comps that you could say. I saw somebody say it on Twitter, and I thought that it was the best way to explain Jewel Lloyd's game to somebody who doesn't watch the W consistently. She is the most NBA ready player in the WNBA out of everybody in the WNBA in her game. That's how tough of buckets that she can go get. Like that's
I
how
just see
tough her buckets
I
are.
see
And her
Kyrie personally. That's what I would
It's
go
so
with.
good. I mean, the offense is unlimited Buku offense, and now you just went and you paired her with Skylar Diggins Smith
Mhm.
and Nneka Ogwumike.
It's such a hell of a trio.
That is a
It's such a hell of a
trio.
trio.
That is a trio. Now and guess what? You still have Easy McBeggar, who was really good last year as a big. You have Jordan Horston, who was really good last year as a rookie. I think she actually made all rookie. This team This team is gonna sneakily be number 3, and I think that they're gonna give one of the Aces or the Liberty a series in the playoffs that they're gonna be like, "Holy shit, I didn't think that they were gonna push us that hard." Like, this team could be really, really good. If Skylar Diggins Smith comes back in the form, and I know it just feels like she has a chip on her shoulder because of how the rain ended with the Mercury and how everybody's kind of been downing her after pregnancy and thinking that she's not going to be able to come back and play. And we've seen Nafisa Collier come back after a pregnancy and immediately be comeback player of the year. And she would have been sole comeback player of the year if it wasn't for Brittany Griner. So, man, this team can defend. This team can score.
It's a lot of wins, though.
It's a lot of wins, but I think they get there, man. I think they get there. I think both them and the Sun are 25+ win teams.
I think I might lean under. I think that this team might be better built for the playoffs. This might be the type of team that's going to be hovering. Their seed's going to be determined, and they're just going to try to keep everybody healthy.
Okay. All
It would
right. I
not
respect that.
surprise me if they kind of get their spot in, win 22-23, and they just know, drop the ball and we can win any series. So I'm going to go under. I think they're going to try to keep people healthy by the end of the year. Diggins Smith, I got to wonder how many games she's going to play in this season after basically missing the entire year last year. I'll go with the under, but I do love this team. I just think I need to believe that they're going to fully commit to trying to win 25, 28. Like, I'm just not sure they're going to be able to do that. I'm going to lean under. I think they'll win like 22, 23. But in the playoffs, they're going to be dangerous for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I didn't think about that. I will admit, I did not consider the fact that this is because they are older team and they could very well say, "Hey man, we don't need 25+ wins.
We've
just
seen
need
the
to get into
Mystics
the
do that
playoffs."
before with EDD. They would just coast in the last week or two and just try to get into the playoffs. They already clinched a spot. Keep everyone healthy and see what happens. So,
but I'm rocking with Joel Lloyd. I'm going over 24.5. All right. I am down. Said, are we betting the house on Caitlin to score 3 in every game at +100?
That's 40 games. That's not well. If she gets injured, what happens? Is it
That's
just a game
that's
she
what I'm
plays in?
saying. That's really what I was saying. Like, what happens if she gets injured? Is it every game she plays in, or is it every single game that the Fever have? Because they're gonna be headhunting for her this season. I'm not even gonna lie. They're gonna like she's they're coming at her. Best defender every night, physical with her every night. And I mean, I don't know, bro. I've seen Sabrina. I've seen Sabrina go into some horrible shooting stretches.
Yeah, I'm not
At
gonna
even
touch
money, I'm not doing it. I think even
No.
money is crazy. Like that's got to be something with some more juice on it. Even money is crazy. I think I would be interested in it if there was a better price on it. All right. Let's go, Scott. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because I know you have to leave soon. The Liberty. I mean, honestly, truly, I don't really know. Liberty are at 29.5 on the win total. The Aces are at 32.5. There's really not really much updates to these two teams to really talk
why
about
should there be? They're
because
the
they're
best two
so
teams by a mile.
yeah
They don't
they
need to do
like
anything.
So Candace Parker did retire, but Candace Parker also got hurt midway through that season, and they went through the rest of the year and won a
They
championship
won a
without
title
her.
without her.
So
It didn't matter.
they did pick up Emma Cannon off the wire earlier this week. Today, actually, I think it was today. So pretty much the same team for them. The Liberty got younger. They drafted some young talent, but ultimately the same team there as well. I mean, is there any reason to think either one of these two teams isn't going to go over their win total?
Injuries would be the only reason why.
Are you taking a chance on any one of these two teams to not go over their win total?
Just to be clear, by the way, what are the exact numbers for both?
29.5 for the Liberty and 32.5 for the Storm. I mean, not the Storm, for the Aces.
I mean, the Aces, you could argue, are just going to try to win a title, and they might also try to punt some games at the end of the year. Didn't really apply last year because the Liberty were keeping pace. I think that's kind of the problem, is that they're both going to
keep pace with each other.
Other team to keep trying because they got to get the home court advantage throughout the playoffs. So
that's why
these two teams are just going to keep fighting it out, and I think that's going to encourage both of them to keep trying to win all these games because they want home court advantage. So, no, I like the over. Last year, for reference, the Liberty and the the Liberty and the Aces both won 30-plus games. I don't see that changing. I don't think the Aces are going to win as many games, but they don't need to. Last year, they won 34. I mean, 34 is
34, and you honestly felt like that there was a couple of games. They had an additional loss.
That tells you how good the Wings were last year. They won 2 of those damn games.
They had an additional loss that's not on the record. Let's throw that out there.
Yeah.
We need we're going to claim as many of these Liberties win, as many of these Liberty wins as we can. And they had an additional loss on the record that's not up there. However, some of those losses you're still like, they could win that. So
there's that one stretch, middle of the season, they lost like 2 or 3 games there.
I'm not taking it under with 2 teams. There's no way I can take it under. I'd rather sweat it over. At the end of the day, I feel like it'd be more behoove me to just sweat the over. And if there's an injury, then I'll get in live and try to middle or something. But nah.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'll lean Liberty over. Actually, I don't know.
They're going to enable. You said it. They're going to enable each other to continue trying, no matter how much. And I understand the rest of the league is better. And okay, we may be able to account for 1 or 2 more losses here. But at the end of the day, I think both of these two teams are going to enable each other to do better, and that's going to pull them back into that 30-plus category. And if they're good for 30-plus wins, I'm just going to assume that both of them get over this total. Even though the Aces is at 32.5, I'm going to assume that they find the other 3 wins.
I think I'm going to go with a hot take here. I think I'm going to lean to the Aces under. A part of me thinks they might coast, or at least try to keep people healthy. And I am wondering, since they already have won 2 straight titles, they're going for a 3-peat. I do think maybe they're going to overlook a couple of teams here or there because they just think they can beat everybody. They're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that you might end up seeing the Aces finish with around 30. They won 34 games last year, and now they basically have to repeat it. And they were pretty lucky with injuries. I know Candace Parker got hurt, but let's be honest, she was just the cherry on top. They didn't really need her, if we're being honest. They won a title without her. 1 injury, and you feel really good about this under. They were pretty fortunate injury-wise last year. I'm going to lean under. There's no leeway at all. There's no wiggle room at 32.5. I'll lean to the under on the Aces. That's my hot take.
All right. It is a hot take. It really is. All right, man. Hey, Scott. We've gotten through it. Let's go ahead and give a best bet for a win total. And yeah.
Are you giving up the Fever?
Bet. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, man. 20.5 is that's a really large jump for one player to make the team. Because there's really not much turnover to this team other than Caitlin Clark. So 8, hold on. Some of the best players in the league aren't even 8 wins. Can't carry a team to 8 wins better. They're gonna be okay, but they're gonna be good. But it's not. That's
17.
That's too much.
Even
if they get to 20, that's still under.
Yeah, they have to finish above 500.
Yeah, man. I'm taking the under on Indiana Fever. I don't think they get above 500 this year.
Okay, for mine, it's either going to be the Sky over or the Sparks under, and I have to figure out which one I want to take. I think I'm going to go with the Sparks under.
Okay.
I think this team's going to be bad. Like, really, really bad. We went through the lineup. We can't figure out who's going to score for this team. We just can't figure it out. Like, I don't know who's going to score for this team.
End of the year last year where they played themselves out of a playoff spot?
Of course. And it was like a bunch of winnable games at home as well.
And they kept losing. Yeah, they just kept losing.
I don't even know how much of an advantage they have in LA because people are going to be focused on the Dodgers and other sports. Like, do they have a great home court? It's fine.
Venice, yeah.
LA traffic.
It's too big of a city. Yeah, it's too big of a city. It's not like the Mystics, where the Mystics, the place they play in on the regular, not Capital One, but the entertainment center. Like, you're all sitting on top of each other, and all that crowd noise is piping.
Or even just Seattle. Like, you don't have many other options. In California, you have so many other options to go to. I'm concerned if this team is bad, they're not going to do well in the actual attendance department, and I think that's going to be a reason why home court advantage might not exist for this team. And for reference, last year, by the way, the Sparks ended up going 10-10 at home. They went 7-13 on the road. So they weren't even that good at home. They were just better than on the road. But I'll go with the Sparks under. I think this team wins like 8 games. It's a work in progress. They're going to let the young guys try to play, the young players play a lot of minutes. It's not going to go well. It's just not going to go well as far as I'm concerned. I think Brink is a work in progress in the WNBA. So give me the under on the Sparks at 10.5. But if I could steal Landon's pick, my lock will be over 10.5 on the Sky if that line actually exists. If 10.5 exists on the Sky, I'll take that as my lock. But for most books, I see 11.5 on the Sparks on DraftKings. Give me the under 11.5 at -130 as my lock.
All right. We are so back, man. We are so
gonna be fun.
Back. It's gonna be a great season. It's gonna be a great season. Gonna have guests. Gonna have live streams. Live streams. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of stuff. I'm working on a lot of things, and I think this is gonna be the biggest season yet. Player props. Hey, man, Rickea Jackson might lead that Sparks team in scoring. If it's not De'Ara Hambry, it might just be Rickea Jackson. It really might. So, all right, man. And that would check right. Vol, hey, rookie Vol, Sparks, Candace Parker, remind you, could be. Anything else for people before we get up out of here, Scott?
No, it was fun. Looking forward to breaking down some other offseason stuff. We got the MVP award and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll break that down as well. So stay tuned for that.
All right. And that is going to be it, everybody. So for the WNBA Gambling Podcast, make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow NBA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. For anybody that's just stumbling in and, hey, you like what you hear, you're coming to rock with us for the season, we have pretty good ROI on the season. I would like to say that we got this thing figured out, but this is going to be a whole different year. They got chartered flights now. That's new. That dropped today. That's going to be fun. And we're just going to get a better product overall. More. And it's going to be a lot of Indiana Fever game. By the way, we did talk about that. Bro, 36 of their 40 games are nationally televised.
Yeah.
The Indiana fucking Fever have 36 nationally televised games.
In a lot of those games. So,
I feel like you have to. And that's the agenda. They want to see points in those games. That's going to be the agenda. Oh, my gosh. We got to take. All right. I already have our trend. Let me go ahead and write it down. I already have our first trend. Let's just take the team total over for everybody that plays the Fever.
That works. We can ride
Fever, opponent, team total over. Let's just go ahead and add that. I can't see why everybody doesn't put up 80 to 90 points against them. So, All right. Thank you, Landon. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. Appreciate everybody else that was in the chat that came through. Even if you left or you're listening to this again and you're checking us out, appreciate everybody. Make sure you like the video before you get out on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube, like the video, and give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. We are so back, man. And I can't wait to welcome in and usher in a whole bunch of new community and fans and people listening to this pod. Let's do it, Scott. And I have nothing else to say, nothing else to do. No other way of ending the podcast. Just going to end it like this. We are out of here.